Food service, we could pay that back, right? So there's no more. So I was a little concerned with the amount of money we have. Food service, we could pay that back, right?
Okay, Mr. President, you're live, so.
How much is in there? No, it's one of the clubhouse. Yeah. So my question to you is, how do we get money out?
Well, first of all, we shouldn't have money unless it's a purpose and expense. So is there an expense waiting to happen?
Yeah, let me pull it up. I'll show you, because that was one of the questions I had.
Those funds, you only generate revenue if you have a purpose. Which means that there could be expense waiting for it.
Yeah. I was just, my concern was with the amount of money in there, I wanted to know what the process was to get it out.
I know you have. Have you seen your story?
I read it wrong.
I know, we're all like,
So in those individual accounts, Jeff,
Yeah.
they raise funds in order to
Yeah,
spend.
but,
So,
okay.
and so there's a purpose to raise the funds because they anticipate an expense. So, and for example, like FFA, they always have a big balance.
Yeah.
But they own crops and they have, but they usually use that
Right.
for, they spend a lot and they purchase a lot, they go on trips.
So how do they spend that money? How do they get the money? And so there's two checks or two checks on the check?
So they're all school funds.
Right.
So the activity fund is they have to, they do a purchase order,
Okay.
And-
Okay.
but only expenses run through the school.
Okay.
They have to follow our protocol, and our procedures and processes. Yeah.
Okay.
We hold all the checks
Right.
and do all the processing.
all right, 6 o'clock. You go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Josh?
Here.
Tyler?
Here.
Alex?
Here.
Jeff?
Yep.
And Andrew?
Here. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda passed. Public forum. Gail, do we have anybody that emailed in a public forum for tonight?
No.
And I see no one in attendance, so we will go right into announcements and celebrations. Christine, what do you got?
Yeah, okay, so I have a few here. So a couple things, announcements and celebration. Just wanted to thank Jeff Becker and his family. They purchased and worked with the high school and our director of curriculum, Harry Clark, to bring additional resources for financial literacy to our students at Gilbert High. So we're very grateful to them for that. Also, I want to thank Mayor Pop, who will be presenting on Thursday, March 10th at the high school to our physics classes, talking about engineering. So has arranged that, so we're looking forward to him and what he's going to share with the kids. Also wanted to congratulate the high school, put on a planned wellness day for students last Wednesday. They created different sessions, invited adults to put those sessions on all different topics. Kids signed up for different sessions throughout the morning, which included things like dance, painting, self-care, games, and many, many other things. Kids were really positive about it and had a great morning. So just another way that we're promoting wellness and mental health, positive mental health choices. And so that's what that was for on that day. So
How many kids attended that?
the entire high school. Yep, the entire high school was part of that. So it's great. Then I want to congratulate the middle school. I attended my first annual dodgeball event at the middle school Friday night. I had no idea it was such an event. And it was an event. It was really great. Mr. Danielson had a well planned. I know his staff helped. his parents were there cheering on kids, and kids just had a ball. So it was an incredible evening. The stands were full. There was no place to sit. And when the team won, they were all rushing down like we had won the state championship. I mean, it was really something to see. So congratulations to them. Also want to congratulate that our intermediate school, our students have been participating, as you know, in the Leader in Me program, and part of that is taking on leadership roles. And one of the things as you go into a classroom or into a setting, one of the ambassadors will come over to you, introduce themselves, tell you what's happening in the classroom, and ask you if you have any questions. So last week when I was in the gym and they were playing a game called Throw the Chicken, this ambassador had to explain that game to me and did a great job. And yet she was real anxious to get back to the game. So, so it's really one little glimpse of that program that they're doing and making a difference for kids. Also in the intermediate school, our fourth graders put on their wax museum. And I learned many new facts from lots of different wax museum participants, including Amelia Earhart, Wayne Gretzky, and Claude Monet were all there. And I shared some things, learned some things there. And then in elementary, last but certainly not least, we're going to honor her at the next board meeting. She wasn't available because of conferences. In elementary school, congratulations to kindergarten teacher Angie Bonthus, who was named one of 2 recipients in the nation of the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She was honored for her work. There was a virtual ceremony. She had all her kids around her when they, threw to her picture, and it was really incredible to see. And the celebration was really wonderful, and the kids were excited because they got cake. So that was good. So congratulations to her. And like I said, we'll have her come to a board meeting so you can all recognize her as well. And then I just want to thank all of the teachers and staff and parents that are coming to conferences this week. Everybody's busy with that, and I know looking forward to spring break next week, but I know it takes a lot of time for the teachers to prepare, and it's harder on parents to get out of work and come do that, but that's important to learn about their student as well. So those are my announcements and celebrations. I have a lot, sorry.
Thank you, Christine. Any other announcements, celebrations? Anyone on the board? All right, admin reports. What do you have there?
Okay, our return to learn, we always touch base on that, our COVID update. If you're watching, we kept the dashboard up. The state piece has come off. Our numbers are very low, and so that's exciting. An example of a decision that we made there is that if you recall, the winter formal at the high school was supposed to be 5 or 6 weeks ago. Our COVID numbers were pretty high. We postponed that until this past maybe 2 weeks ago when our COVID numbers were much lower, and that worked out really well. We are seeing some illness in the school, but it tends to be more, I would call them stomach/flu issues that we're seeing from just typical winter pieces. So that's where we are with COVID. And then the second piece we just want to mention, and it's really a celebration, but the governor, if you recall, had put forward to give certified teachers retention payments. It's $1,000 for in-classroom full-time teachers. The state provided us the list of who that would be. Gail worked very closely to make sure, she worked with Carrie, she worked with me, she worked with Vic to make sure that we had all the right people on the list. We had a handful of people that were not on the list certified, which is our counselors, our instructional coaches, and our media specialist was not on the list. And so we worked together to ensure that they also received the $1,000. So every certified person was included, and our part-time certified people received half of that at $500. So we included the certified staff that were for that. And so I'm very grateful to our team for putting that together. The teachers are filling out the appropriate paperwork to make that happen, and that will come in their March. Is that right, Gail? March payroll? Yeah, in their March payroll.
As long as I meet the deadline.
Yep, as long as they meet the. So is there anything else you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Just a question,
Yeah.
approximately how many staff does that include then? Just like
Well,
round numbers?
I have 108 responses, and I have 114.
Okay.
And the ones that were not included, I think it turned out to be about 8 that we
Okay.
went ahead and were able to fund. Is that about right? 8 to 10?
Yeah,
8 to 10. So we're grateful for those payments, but it's important to know that that list was determined by the State Department and not us, so. That's the end of my reports.
Thank you very much, Christine. Board reports, I don't have anything unless someone else has any board reports you want to discuss. Right, jumping into old business. We have the wonderful school calendar back on here. I think we have some minor changes to what was approved last month. So if you want to hit on those quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually asked if I would speak about calendar. I worked with the calendar committee. We created a calendar committee to evaluate the calendar. Started off by staff filled out a survey, 166 staff members responded to some specific questions on things that they would like to see within the school year. And then we tried to develop a calendar with feedback from a calendar committee that best reflected what staff wanted and what this committee felt like was appropriate. It starts out with 4 days at the beginning of the school year to start kind of getting organized for the school year. Staff reported that they wanted 3 or 4 days at the beginning to get organized. Kind of the big things is if you look at like the start date is, we can't start until August 23rd. And so staff survey reflected they would like to start as closely to August 23rd as possible. And so we selected August 23rd. The next things that kind of pop up that are the biggies is Christmas break. It reflected that they wanted 2 weeks for Christmas, which is what we've done for the last several years. The interesting part about Christmas this year is Christmas falls on a Sunday, as does New Year's Day. So instead of getting out on the 19th? 18th,
The 21st.
Instead of getting out at the beginning of
Oh,
the
the
week, the 19th, we're gonna get out in the middle of the week. And then New Year's Day falls on a Monday, so instead of coming back on a Sunday, instead of coming back on a Monday, we're gonna come back on that Wednesday, the 4th. So it kind of evens out the 10 days and reflects the 10 days. The original calendar we sent had a mistake related to that day that needed to be added. And so that is now reflecting on that. Spring break reflects matching up with the Board of Regents spring breaks. With our number of families that have connections to Iowa State and things, it just makes sense for us to match up our spring break as closely as possible. And then the last thing that was reflected was professional development. There was some discussion about doing early outs on Wednesdays or doing full days on Mondays, once a month. Staff was in favor of doing the once a month on Mondays. So we tried to reflect a calendar that was as closely matched what the survey results were saying. Did our best, got plenty of feedback from a variety of people. Gave them an opportunity to give feedback to Dr. T for her to evaluate that and then create a calendar. Any specific questions?
So you said the staff opted for the Monday off versus the half a day on Wednesday?
Yes. I think it was like 66% of the people that responded like the Monday.
We've been in that for it's been several years. We've done the Wednesday, so this will be a change for the parents and everybody.
Well, the Monday for professional development is what we did this last year also. So
Okay.
it's not a change. The Wednesdays will still remain as Wednesdays have.
Okay.
That hasn't changed. The professional development pieces changed over the years in multiple different forms on different days. But staff seemed like a full day of training versus the every other Wednesday. It was a little more
Yeah.
disruptive than the school year.
Any other questions for Vic or Christine? We have a motion to approve the updated 22-23 school
Yeah,
calendar.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Was that Jeff?
Yeah.
Was that Jeff and
Josh.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, updated school calendar is approved.
Can I just add one piece? We did have a parent suggest that maybe we take that calendar and figure out how to make it a Google calendar so people could merge it with their own work calendars and whatnot. So I thought that was a great suggestion and we're working on that. So
Good.
I just wanted to thank that parent for calling in that suggestion and we're working on it. Right, Jason?
Was there any other input or did anyone else from non-staff Or is that the only comment regarding
That was a parent that called in. All the other comments that we, people had that original, like the 160 that sent in, then the calendar committee, after we made the second changes, sent it back out to the calendar committee. Vic did that. And then there really weren't any questions beyond that. So
I
it
mean,
seemed to
like
be pretty
parents or
positive.
anything?
No,
Do
no.
they typically ever have, I guess?
We haven't
in the
done
past,
that in the
they-
past. And my understanding is that we haven't done that. I think if we were gonna go further to the half day, like early release and the all day Monday, I probably, if staff had said they wanted that change, then I probably would have went out to parents to say, what does that look like for your work life? Would that work with them? Would it not? I know you guys have done some of that in the past, but that was the one piece of the survey that was a little bit of surprise to me, that people wanted to keep it on that Monday. But what the feedback was that people really liked having the full day, and it was families liked it as well, just in having conversations with people, because they could arrange for daycare for that whole day versus just a couple hours every week. So.
Thank you much. New business. Any update on the master planning RFP from the facilities committee? Going through all those, and I think our next, April 4th, we're gonna interview, I think, the final candidates is what's in the calendar, which we'll talk about here at the end of the meeting. But any update at all, Tyler or Jeff, on that?
No, I mean, that's out, and I would think that we just get a time sometime between March 21st and April 4th, probably closer to March 21st for a few of us to look through the
Yep.
applications.
We have received, I have received, and I don't know if Gail, if you have, but a few companies that have just sent an email back saying, we saw your RFP, we're excited about it, we're going to put in for it. That was it. So it's out there, people are seeing it, and that's a response I have received. I don't know, Gail, if you've had anything different than
No,
that.
other than we have that meeting with CMB or see what to come and look at the facilities on Wednesday and visit with us.
That's right.
But that's about it.
And just to confirm, I think the plan is, again, you guys will kind of go through that, narrow it down to 2 or 3, Tyler, is that the plan, to do final interviews? Or-
Yeah, I would think, I mean,
Depends what they look like, yeah.
Yeah.
target
Okay.
3
Yeah.
probably, but
Perfect.
see.
Good. All right, next item, we have consider to approve the 2022 DECA International Career Development Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, April 23rd through April 27th. You can see some document in our notes with more information on there. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Tyler, second. You got a second here? Any further discussion?
Is that Josh?
Nope, it wasn't
Alex.
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 Alex, sorry. Sorry,
We
Alex.
can't
See,
see.
I know. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? All right, motion passed. Next item is an update to the open enrollment matrix. And Dr. T, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, okay, if you look up there on the wall, it's a little bit hard to see, but I want to go over this. So this is the matrix for next year based on the applications that we have in our files right now. Thank you, Jason. So a couple things I would like to point out is just, first of all, if you remember last month, I talked about taking out those green columns. And wonderful Karen, who's our registrar, said, no, there's a reason for those green columns. I said, ooh, good to know. So we put the green columns back in. And they're really around, really what they are is how many applications do we have sitting there ready to go in? And that's where if you look at kinder and you go across, we had 9 applications. That's what that means. And so later in the year, those will all be 0. But for now, that's an important column. So if you take that and then you take your slots for open enrollment, that's your OE available. If we're looking at kinder, that brings us down to 6 available slots with 6 sections. So if that comes to 0, 1, -1, -2, -3, and we still have people coming through the door based on the conversation we had last month, we will add a section there. Right now, we don't need it yet, but we haven't had Kinder Roundup yet. That's coming April 1st. So once Kinder Roundup comes, my anticipation is that we'll go from 6 sections to 7, which we already discussed last time. If you look down the list, you can see, for example, if you look at 2nd grade, we have 3 applications that came in. They had to do with siblings, so I accepted them, and that put us at -2, which is a little dicey, but made the decision to do that because they had other grades already in the school. And so that grade, for example, in 2nd grade is closed. We are full in 2nd grade. And then if you go down in 3rd grade, you see we had 6 applications for 3rd grade. We were able to accept those. We still have 1 space available. In 4th grade, we had 1. We went ahead and took it, probably a sibling. If there was a sibling, I tried to get the sibling in, even though it went over the number maybe by 1. And you can see that through 4th and 5th as well. Now, when you get to 6th through 12th grade, and I don't know, Jason, if you want to scroll down just a little bit there so we can see the 12th grade, you can see that those numbers change significantly. We are essentially, we did not bring in, we brought in maybe because of a sibling, but mostly we did not bring in numbers 6th through 12th grade. If you go far over to the right column, you can see the number that we are proposing to decline because of space. So if you look at the 8th grade, they're already 20 over in space, and we had 6 applications for 8th grade. We cannot accept those. There's just not room. So we'll be denying those 6. Then if you go to the high school, same thing, you'll see we're over by multiple numbers there. And we had 7, 4, 1, and 1, and those will all be declined because of how far over we are. So it's not easy, but at the same time, I felt good. It was a good number we were able to accept, a smaller number that we are going to have to say no to. But I think it was the matrix and the work you did last time really is effective and will help keep our class sizes low, which is what we talked about.
Just an update too for Josh and Alex, the open enrollment cutoff was March 1st. So those are all in now, and that's kind of, so we will approve it next month, I believe, with the names and everything else. But this is just from a number standpoint to see, here's the applications we have in. Then again, it's kind of broken down by class, so.
And also just so you know that HASP stands for homeschool. So if you were saying to yourself, gosh, what's that number? Well, they're still included in the count, but those are students that are homeschooled. So that's what that is. Okay. The only other thing I want to mention as it relates to policy on the same, if you remember a month ago, I talked to you about possibly changing our policy so that if you were an employee, you could bring in a student. We did the survey, Vic did that, sent that out. And I think we had, was it 6 or 8, Vic, do you
We
remember?
had 6 staff members that
That's right.
indicated they would, and I think out of the 6, 4 of them fell in grades that they're just wanting the openings anyways.
Yeah.
So 6 out of, I don't know how many total employees we have, isn't it?
So we were able to take them or not able?
No,
to take
so my recommendation, I'm actually pulling my recommendation because over half of them were high school and we're already so far over in high school. I thought this isn't the year. Maybe, next year we can just kind of keep that in mind and see it again about it next year. We just we don't have the space for it right now.
One thing that Dr. T and I did discuss related to that is that getting teachers in the next few years, so the next few years is going to be tricky. They're projecting shortages in almost every area, not as many people getting into education, a lot of people leaving education. So it might be something to think about in the future if we have space as a great marketing tool for recruiting teachers to come in. Especially if you recruit teachers that have young children, you're more likely to keep them if they start their kids younger. Just something to think about in the future. But obviously there has to be space available. We can't blow over a matrix based on something that isn't feasible at the moment. But something to think about there's not many perks that we can provide in the education field. And so those things are going to be more important from an HR standpoint as we move forward.
Yeah.
In grade 3, was that one denied due to space that they have an older sibling in high school or something that was also applying?
Yes, sometimes it did come down to that. There was about 2 families where I decided to let the family decide, where I accepted
Yeah.
maybe the kindergartner, but had to say no to the high schooler. And I thought, I'll let that family make that decision. So these numbers could shift as parents get that information. But we tried to do that. The other thing is, remember, it's all based on capacity, not only in the seats, but also the needs of the student. If the student has additional learning needs, we have to make sure we have capacity. Do we have capacity in speech? Do we have capacity in any special program, like in our gifted program? I mean, we have to make sure we have capacity in all areas in order to accept students.
Absolutely, thanks.
We talked an awful lot about the elementary school last month, but I mean, maybe I just totally missed it, but the high school numbers seem really high. I mean, are we
Yeah, but
bursting at the seams, or is that acceptable, or we're?
High school is so different in my mind too. And I've always, I've seen Josh. I think-
They're not in the same class all day.
You got it.
I'm
Right.
just-
It changes, but also remember, I think one of the things I shared last time is that we added, based on all this information, we went ahead and Cindy Bassett, had shared, which congratulations to Cindy and John Rocker for taking on the permanent position. But that they needed additional staff. So we added 1.5 teachers to the staff to try to alleviate some of that. It's not as clean, and that, it's not as clean as elementary where it's like, 22 in a class. Because you might have, 15 kids in a AP math class, and then you might have 30 kids in a different class, so it kind of changes based on the needs of the kids. So these numbers, while they are like that, they make it work with the scheduling and the kids. So that it's not like we're sitting there with 22 extra kids in one classroom. They're spread out based on the needs of their schedules. But we did provide, and Sydney's busy planning for that now, 1.5 additional teachers. One is, she's looking at a half-time math teacher and 1.0 in the area of health, because we had very large numbers in our health and wellness classes.
So if I'm reading this right, and I apologize for missing the meeting, if we were to do the 9th grade like we talked about, but we didn't, you're already set up for the 8th grade next year because you got the same numbers in 8th grade this year, right? You're minus 20, turn away 6, or 9th grade, you're minus 19, turn away 7. So what would stop us from increasing 9th grade this year, knowing we could fill it right behind there? And I just asked that, I mean, are we tight on space? Are we?
Yes, it is tight on space, that's one. The other thing is that it's not, we wouldn't need to just hire one teacher because of the way the scheduling works, so you'd have to, have, I mean, I'm saying this, but maybe it's, I think in our conversations, and Vic can probably speak to this, it would be 3, because we'd have to have a math, a language arts, and a social studies, I think, and so that's how that impacts that differently. Doesn't mean we couldn't, it just means that that's what that looks like, and it would be space. And Vic, do you want to speak?
No,
to
you're
any more of
exactly
that?
right. I mean, it's not as easy as just, the numbers are a little more tricky at the high school level based on what she was just explaining. Because the sections are never going to be balanced ever. Like she said, there has to be an AP section in the morning, there has to be another one in the afternoon, based on Iowa State schedules and all the other things. There's so many complex factors, but when you're adding a section of kids, you're really adding, 3 to 4 staff, because you gotta have a science teacher that can accommodate, and a math teacher, and it's a little more of a tricky puzzle. But those numbers, the minus numbers, those are consistent with what they've been in the 5 years that I've been here. Pretty similar. And we've grown. I mean, we have some of our largest classes we've had at the high school since I've been here. We have some that will be, if it continues the way it looks, could push 160 by the time they get to graduation. And that's a lot of kids. That's now 7, 8 sections of things, because they just don't balance out perfectly like we were talking about. Yeah, that would be, you'd be busting at the seams in a variety of problematic areas. Also, you also have to have room space. There has to be numbers of rooms. If you're adding 3 teachers, they've got to have somewhere to teach.
So adding those 7, if I'm hearing you right, I'm gonna play the other side of this with you, okay?
Yep.
So if I understand you right, if you add those 7 in 9th grade, you're gonna have to hire 3 more teachers. And you're gonna be tight space.
By the time it balances out, yeah.
So what happens to the 19 kids that are already there? It's just a non-effect on them?
Well, I guess I don't understand percent.
Exactly. I mean, you're saying it's okay for the -19 number. But if you add 7 more and make it -26, then
Well, we've
it's-
added staff over the years to accommodate that -19.
yeah.
And that number has been consistent over the course of several years.
Yeah, I would challenge this group, especially this group, because I'm so confident in you, to grow the high school. More so than and I get growing and I really apologize for missing the meeting, but we can grow through attrition, or we can grow through by going out and saying we got the greatest school in the world, and maybe we do, or maybe we don't, and taking kids that way. But one of the things I always said when I got on here is I'm gonna quit telling kids they can't come here. Because if I had a kid, this is where I wanted to come. So it's a double-sided sword, I get it, but somewhere along the line, we gotta say, like Josh says, why not high school?
So some of the conversation we had was, what culturally do we want from the board? And one of the things I think we said was, we do want to keep the student to teacher ratio low, right? I mean, that's one of the cultural things that's pretty important to Gilbert, regardless of how many students are there. If you have a nice ratio, it can seem like a small school, whether we doubled in size in the last
Right,
20 years or not, right?
Yeah.
So that was just one of the premises that was part of the discussion last time. And I don't disagree with continuing to understand, okay, what are the dynamics of the high school? Because I think that is the unique one. I mean, for the most part, middle school and certainly intermediate and elementary track through is classes, right? But are we as efficient and as effective in the high school? And at some point, and Vic, you brought this up in the past, in your role as principal, was at some point the core is, we've exceeded what the core can do, meaning lunch and just space that way. So I would expect that out of this facility planning, that there's a good assessment of the high school, and I think that can help us with that, because
I'll give you an example, Jeff. Like, for example, I think the first year that I was there, the high school was sitting at about 450 kids. And it's within the next year or so is going to be touching on 600. I mean, so we've gained quite a few kids at the high school in a short period of time. It's not unusual to see lots more requests at the high school level. Mainly that's due to the fact that they want to get here because they want to start sports and activities when they start in high school. It's not unusual, but we've gained quite a few kids over a short period of time in a building that's had now 2 additions that have added to it in the course of 8 years.
Yeah.
We want to be careful to, like you said, with the long range planning, I think that's very important, especially knowing that there are other projects that are equally as important. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
I don't want to, I just can't buy into the number where it's okay to have 20, but you can't have 7 more. I'm never going to buy that. That's just not where I'm from.
but at some point you got to draw a line.
Yep, I agree. And this group said that's the way they're going to do it, and that's where we've got where we were today.
And without the data behind it, like I said, if we had I think this long range master planning, that would help us at least understand maybe facilities wise. But since we don't have that yet, maybe next year we have a whole different conversation with this, Jeff, because now we have kind of some information, we know where we're gonna go facilities wise.
Because, and so my expectations are that will help us with facilities. What we still, we may want to ask the board is, well, let's understand the efficiencies of the teacher and the space usage, right? I mean, how many 5-kid classes do we have? Or,
Right, we
that,
need to
that
look
sort
at
of
that.
thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, then it becomes a scheduling. Are we doing our very best, which I know they are and have been, but it's a question to say, in the past, maybe not here, but in my past world, we'd call it, how many singletons do we have? Meaning,
Right.
do we have one person teaching guitar, and there's 4 kids in the guitar class? Well, then that skews everything else for that period. Now, maybe we don't have that problem here.
And the tricky part of that is some of those singletons you talk about or state required classes that we can't drop, we
Yeah.
have to offer.
Yeah.
Like in CTE or STEM or some of those things, like we have to offer it or we don't get our Perkins funding, because we don't have enough for the core and the CTE area.
Yeah.
So it gets kind of tricky with, like a new computer science requirement, it was just added, so we've had to add computer science teacher, I had to get a special endorsement, and it gets a little more tricky at the high school level with specific endorsements and being able to get specific people.
Right, and so I think, at least my opinion from a board would be great, understand that. In both of the previous two, not the original, but the two additions, as you mentioned, Vic, well, let's continue to get creative on the space sizes and such, right?
Right.
And I think we have, but it sounds like we probably have a ways to go. In
Yeah.
other words, they're not all just cookie cutter 25 kids in a seat, so that we can accommodate singletons or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. And, the other factor then is, well, how many more teachers?
Well, and I would just add that I think that might be something that as we continue to have this conversation, that we look at the high school to say, what does that look like? So break down the classes so you can see how many kids are in each of the classes. That's a different way to look at it, but it gives you more of a true sense of what it looks like. And also, we could also run a schedule of a kid of their day. They might start this period and they have 10 kids in that class, and then they go to this period and they've got 35, which we don't have 35, but they have 28 in this classroom, and then they go to this, and then they go to lunch and there's this many kids in the commons. I mean, so you get kind of a picture of what their day looks like. And then also we could take a look and say, we can break it down by teacher to say, here's their caseload throughout the whole day. Maybe their first period, they have 15, their second period, they have 30 or 20.
You could conceivably come up with a synopsis that says, take 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and expand those grades. But then you look at 5th grade, what are you gonna do next year when you don't have the number? So I mean, I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just going the speed limit. I get it. I mean,
Well, and to speak to that, if I may, Jeff, is that you're exactly right. And I had that conversation with Mr. Danielson. We were talking about, he's right. He is teetering right on having another section in 6th grade. But when those kids move, if he stays right where he is, he'll be okay.
yeah,
And we don't necessarily want to add a teacher, because when those 5th graders come in behind him, he's not going to need that. So we also don't want to be flip-flopping around about, oh, here, add a teacher, now take a teacher away, so that we can balance that out. And so that's a conversation we're having. And the principals are great at looking at those numbers and forecasting forward, so.
what do you think the opportunity is that we don't get people apply here because they know we're full? To come,
Are you asking me? Are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody who knows the answer, because I don't.
You mean that's an open enrollment?
Yeah,
Oh, I
think
think
it's a
people know
lot.
that we're full.
Yeah, I think.
so they don't even put forth the effort. So I guess what my ask is 5th grade really that number? Is 4th grade really that number?
For the who applied?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I bet.
Having open enrolled previous to this, I think it's pretty well known that it's tough to get into Gilbert. Okay.
I mean, I applied for open enrollment my first year as principal was denied.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been that way for quite some time. My route to fix that was I bought a house. I moved into the district.
That's what we did.
But just to-
My thing with that is, so just like with the elementary school, so open enrollment to me is a tool, not an outcome. Growing high school is a tool, not an outcome. The outcome is quality education for the people in the Gilbert Community School District. And a tool that we can use to make sure that that quality education is being provided, if we need to, is to open that up to people outside of the district in support of the people that are here. It'd be nice if I think in a perfect world, we could open it up and just, everybody come here. You'd have people driving hours. I mean, I talked to some people at the school board conference, they have people driving 90 minutes to go to different schools in the metro area. I think we would certainly do that, but I don't want to walk past a kid that, my neighbor, and say, hey, the other family that drove here 90 minutes, that's part of the reason that your class sizes are big, and that's part of the reason that you're not getting a quality education. So to me, my emphasis would make sure that this is an outcomes-based decision on everything that we're doing. So, like I said, open enrollment is great when it's used as a tool. You know, growth is great when it's used as a tool, but not an outcome.
I'll just piggyback too off what you said earlier, Vic, you know, with regards to the staff members and wanting their kids to come here, I fully support your recommendation. I'm not gonna challenge it at all this year, but I will challenge it, I think, in the years to come, because, you know, back to your example, if you're a principal at our high school and you want to send your kids here and you can't because you don't live here. I struggle with that. I mean, I just struggle as an employee of the district. If you want to send your kids to this district that you already put your blood, sweat, and tears into, I think they should have the right to be able to send their kids here.
And districts are using that very tool to recruit.
To recruit teachers
And I
like
think
that.
we should, I mean, again, I'm okay, but I would think, Dow, that we need to look at that as a recruiting
We
tool.
talked to a principal that had 12 openings, still hasn't gotten filled since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
They're offering $5,000 signing bonuses and $2,500 for moving expenses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting more and more competitive,
Yeah.
especially in tougher environments. I think we have an advantage.
Well, I appreciate everybody going over this. Again, I apologize for not being here, but I appreciate you spending a little time on it tonight.
I also think that as we look at, as it being, bring your child if you work here, that we do that next year earlier, and it's not really necessarily tied to the open enrollment conversation, because I feel like it blurred the
It's
lines
separate.
a little bit.
I think. it
So
should
we
be
need to
separate.
do that first, get those numbers set, and then move into this. And so that's what I would recommend for us as we move forward for next year, so that we could, you know, manage that.
Yeah,
What would be the timing on that, do you think?
I'm thinking January, like they would commit in January, we would commit in January, you know, by giving a response back. And then this comes up March 1st, and then we're ready to go
So
from
we
there.
have the numbers and all that.
That's right.
We get back and open enrollment that way.
Yeah. I see.
No, I
it.
would agree. I think that order would make sense to
Yeah.
go first, but again, my opinion is I would fully support
Yeah.
that.
I would as well.
Well, thank you.
Any other discussion on the matrix? And I said we will vote on that next month, is that right?
Next month, the vote will be the actual names of who's getting the acceptance letter and who is not, and that will come to you next month.
All right, on to our next action item is we are appointing UMB Bank. What is this for again, Gail?
This is the final transactions for our geo revenue bond refinancing.
Yeah.
The last few steps here.
So do we have a motion to approve? This is this sale of the bond and then the purchase of them again.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Further discussion? And these are all roll calls, is that correct? Correct, Gail?
Correct.
All right.
Josh,
Yes.
Tyler,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Jeff.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep. Next item is consider approval for the tax exemption certificate for refunding bonds, series 2022. We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll do that one again.
Second.
Further discussion?
Who had the second?
Tyler.
Tyler.
Any further discussion?
Josh,
Yes.
Tyler,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Jeff.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep. Next item for approval is continuing disclosure certificate for refunding bonds, series 2022.
I'll do that one too.
Is that a roll?
We'll keep it simple.
Yep.
Tyler. Okay. Josh,
Yes.
Tyler,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Jeff.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep. Last but not least is a resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation school refunding bonds, series 2022, the amount of $7,985,000 and levying a tax for the payment thereof.
So moved.
Second.
Josh.
Yep.
Tyler.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Jeff.
Yep.
And Andrew.
Yep. All right, and that is officially done now, is that right, Gail? Awesome.
That's one of our main things. We should be proud of that.
Yeah, that's.
We did a
Ended up
really,
being
well, man, a lot of money.
600.
Mhm.
Seems like the tide's turning right now, so.
Yes. It does. It's a little bit higher.
Yes. All right, next item, the proposed certified budget you have in your notes, just gonna review that, and we're gonna possibly set a public hearing for Monday, April 11th. So Gail, you wanna update that? us on
What
that?
has happened since February is basically the governor has signed the 2.5. And so with the 2.5, as law, and there was a $5, they call it the equity gap payment that was attached to per student. So that changed our levy a little bit. I think last month it was like 17.2 something, and it actually dropped to 17.05730. So if we're good with this, action to, so I can publish it in the paper and then have a board public hearing at the April 11th board meeting before right away. And then that will get us started to meet the April 15th deadline.
Do we have any questions or a motion to approve the public hearing?
Motion approved.
Further discussion?
That,
Alex, how's Alex?
I'm sorry, your guys' voices are so.
Let's pay attention back there. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have a public hearing set for April 11th, 6 PM. And Gail, financial update, please.
So a few things that I wanted to point out on this is I did mention that the variance in the monthly, it was tied directly to we have not been paid by Ames, and that was totally popped out, and of our revenues are lagging by approximately the same dollar amount overall. But year to date, with adding that, I have no concerns for the track that we are on, so whatsoever.
So quick question on that, not to interrupt. Ames hasn't paid us, but I noticed on our bills, we paid them.
Yes.
How does that work out?
It's just, I think it's a timing thing. I know personally at Ames, they've had a lot of turnover and new staff. So it's just taking them longer to verify. So between us two, like we have to go through student by student to make sure they're still there. They didn't move. So you're
Right.
verifying a lot of students. And we just, they sent our bill, we were able to verify it and get the payment made, and it might have been a timing of the payment.
Okay.
For them, when I emailed them, they said they're still reviewing the bill. So,
Is there a time, is this time sensitive at all?
no. So they did say it should be cut by the 10th of the month, so.
Okay.
And I know they have a board meeting, and so they'll probably approve it, but.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, I was talking to Jeff earlier before the meeting that we were able, as of today, we made the transaction of the nutrition fund, paying back the general fund for the salaries and benefits, $237,723 of salaries and benefits July through February. We are in a good financial position. I felt a long time, throughout the expenses of food, it was so high, and I was just like, I did not want a cash flow issue. With this latest payment from the state, it put us in a position that I was able to pay that back this month. So we're at zero right now as of today. So that was a good place to be.
Yep.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out is COVID has reared its ugly head again, and with the financials, I'm done unless anybody has any questions, but I included in the documents of we have an extenuating situation with our audit for fiscal year 21. We had to request an extension because of some health issues with COVID, and of our auditor, plus they're down 6 employees are having a hard time. So those audits should be done within 9 months. And so we request an extension. The state auditor has, as of today, I received the email saying that they have approved the extension to 2022. So all is good there. The first thing that pops into my head about, what do we, okay, so what's that going to affect, right? Well, the first thing I know it's going to affect is, we have to submit this for bonding, which is a big deal for us. So the first thing I did is I notified our Allers, and I notified Piper Sandler. to let them know, gave them the documents so they could have them on hand. Because what do you do? There's not much we can do in
You gotta
this
get a different
situation.
auditor.
So,
You have to get a different auditor.
so,
And I don't mean that negatively, but if they're down to 6 today, I don't see how they're gonna come out of that. And it's our choice. There's other people. out
right,
there,
we have a 3-year commitment with them, so we
But
put
but
it out there.
I bet in the contract, you have if they don't perform their services, we can get out of it.
Yeah.
So I would do some research and that and get us out of there because of the amount of times we're going and getting financing and building and aggressively growing. We can't have an auditor do that to us.
Okay, so that's what, we'll look into that and see, on the RFP of where we're at and review that then. Okay, other than,
So, sorry to interrupt you, but on the bonding, you're talking about this refinancing.
And
that's done. That,
So we're okay with that.
we're okay now.
We're just looking
We've
ahead.
got, yes,
Jeff
yes,
was
no,
saying.
we're done where
All right.
where we're at.
We're
We were
here with
able.
Yeah, but we don't
Yeah.
get that next year.
Oh, I'm just shocked that they're down to one person. That's
She reviews
everything, right?
everything.
That seems.
She
pretty-
signs off on and reviews all of them.
I would agree with Jeff. We should see what other options are
Sure.
there.
Okay. And then the last thing, on the consent agenda, one of our comments on our fiscal year 21 audit was we designate in September when our November, November after we have our annual meeting and then, we approve banks and we set limits for our deposits to the bank. UMB, it snuck up, we had approved $200,000 limit, but we actually deposited $400,000. So I was looking ahead and I saw, okay, fiscal year 22 with this selling of these GO bonds, we had a limit of 200,000 that we need to increase that. We're looking at more like 500 that let's just raise it to $1 million and then we don't have to worry about it. And so I'm just kind of ahead of the, we know that it's coming, so let's go ahead and increase it. And then we need to be aware that come November, when we have our annual meeting, to keep it at $1 million. And with all of our bonding and refinancing, it's just a flow through, but it's getting more and more dollar amount. So it's just a thing to, we can't go over the limit because we set it. So it's just, we just didn't increase it, and it just takes board action. And that's all I have.
thank you very much, Gail.
Mhm.
Consent agenda, anything want to be pulled or discussed?
Can I ask another question?
Well, of course, Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Andy. On the single phase transformer we bought, is there any reason why the electric company didn't pay that? Because usually they pay for it and then we pay them back through usage.
I do not have the answer for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Gail, do you have any knowledge about that?
No.
Was that
Some-
part of
some-
DeNovo's?
It is, it was,
Because something about, well, in that case, the way it was put, it's our responsibility. Their recommendation for a change would be that
it
the
goes
future
back.
goes to there. But
Okay.
Correct.
That, we'll have to go back, but they brought that
Okay.
up last.
Yeah, usually it's not that way. Like I'd build a new store, they'd set the pad and,
Correct.
if I could close the store down tomorrow, I'm still gonna pay $2,000 a month because I got that to pay for it.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay for that transfer long term.
Yeah.
So
It
I
is-
just didn't understand why they.
And that is something that they brought up through De Novo, and that they wanted to see how we could change that.
Okay.
And then the other thing we've talked about since our last meeting is that there's pieces related to that that need to be corrected. And so Dan's working on a plan
Okay.
to bring to us. We have the information from De Novo, but now he's going through and setting priorities from there that I can bring to you and share. And that transformer electrical piece is a very
Okay.
big part of that.
Now, and I read something else, so we're gonna review the track at this school, is that right?
Well, I think that'll be part of the facilities plan, the
Yeah,
master
okay.
planning that I would expect to see in there.
Okay.
But there's different emails going around about that of different organizations that want to help us with that,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure we
I'm
finalized
happy
anything
about
yet.
that. I think that's a nice base.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we haven't done anything on it yet.
We have
It's-
not.
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
some proposals and some people are offering to help fundraise for that, but we haven't gotten much further beyond that at this point.
But I think your Pebble report, I think all those items are very, very well done. I don't know who does all that, but very nice.
I And on the consent agenda, personnel, high school administrators are,
Yes, thank you for teeing that up for me. I'm
Okay.
ready. And I'll do it before you approve. Or should I wait till after you approve?
I'm just curious, because you brought it up last
I
time.
know.
Right?
So you want to before, after?
Just go right to your show. Let's go.
All right. So let me just say, one of the really incredible days last week was going over to the high school staff and announcing that Mrs. Cindy Bassett has agreed to stay on as the principal of Gilbert High School. She's been well trained by Mr. Vanderpool, mentored and trained. And, you know, we put her in there as interim, and I kind of gave her a timeline about before spring break, and she came and said, I'm ready, let's do this. And
Nice.
so she's thrilled to do that. And just to give you a little bit of background, hopefully you saw the email, but just so everyone knows, she has served as a middle school and high school social studies teacher. She's been a dean of students and an instructional coach at Dallas Center Grimes. She joined us in 2019 as an assistant principal, has been amazing. She was one, I think Vic told me, of 87 applicants. I think we had 87 applicants at that time for an assistant principal, and she blew them away. She is very passionate about student achievement, about teaching and learning. She understands what that looks like. She also understands the needs of teachers and kids. So she's a very gifted leader. She cares deeply about our kids and our staff at Gilbert, and you can see that in everything that she does. It already has been a smooth transition as Vic handed things off to her and she went into that interim role. It'll continue to be that as she continues to work with everyone. She also serves as an adjunct professor at Drake University. So, and lives with her family, husband and children here in Gilbert, just outside of Gilbert. So in the Gilbert area. So she's busy and we're thrilled to have her. Could not be more excited. And to make that announcement with the staff and then to see staff members coming up and giving her a hug and really congratulating her for staying on was really a wonderful, wonderful day. In addition to that, Mr. John Ronca, who, if you recall, retired from Ballard High School. I had a feeling, I had a hunch, because when I asked him, how's it going? He was gushing about how much he loved Gilbert High School. And I thought, ooh, I told the staff this, I said, ooh, I think he's fallen in love with us. And everyone said, oh no, he's not gonna stay, he's not gonna stay. Well, then sure enough, he says, I think I wanna stay. So with his wonderful experience as a high school principal, he's enjoying working with the kids, getting to know families, and came out of retirement and wants to continue to do so. He's working very closely and collaboratively with Cindy. They make a wonderful team. And it was also wonderful to announce that to the staff at the same time. Everyone cheered, and it was fun to see people coming up. He's been there like 2 weeks and people are hugging him, and I mean, I just thought this is fantastic. So a little longer than 2 weeks, but so we are thrilled to have two incredible leaders to continue the work that Vic had done as an incredible leader with the high school and watch them continue to grow. So couldn't be more excited about that whole process and how it went. So I'm thrilled.
So is a 200-day contract, 210-day contract, 10 months? Is that what that is?
It comes
Yeah.
out to like middle of June. So you have
Yeah,
half
a little
June
bit
and all
longer.
July.
And that was what, everybody was in agreement of that, of what they wanted. Sometimes they want that time.
Yeah.
And the 230 is roughly, you get July off.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, you
Okay.
get the July.
in terms, is that 1 or 2 year?
It's year to year.
Year to year? Okay.
Yep, but both have said they are looking forward to staying longer than a year. So
Okay.
glad about that.
Outstanding leaders, we're very fortunate.
Yep,
Awesome.
outstanding.
Great news. Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Congratulations, Cindy and John. We're really excited to have you on board again. Hey, real quick on the calendar. So our next April 4th, we got a special meeting. That's going to be the interview for the RFP for the facilities planning. I would like to maybe limit that to an hour. So depending on how many interviewers we have, we'll time slot it out. What's your thoughts on that, Tyler? Do you need longer than that?
I think that'll be tight.
Tight? You want an hour and a half?
I think an hour and a half would be
Okay.
Appropriate.
Because I'd like to tie on a superintendent performance review after that in closed session. What's your thoughts on that? Because just to try to get it in April.
Right.
As opposed to.
So you're starting at what time?
We start at 5, be done at 6:30,
Take a little break.
take a little break, and then jump into a closed session performance review.
That's
Could
probably
you
take
start-
3 or 4 hours. after
Yeah,
the
it's
meeting.
good. That's what I was
Well, I
thinking.
was gonna say a half a day.
I'll order dinner, steak for everyone, is that good?
Steak, what's the
Filet mignon?
Right.
Yeah.
So we can push it back,
We
but
go
I just
for it.
thought we're all there. I mean, Mike instead of coming back another night, maybe just try to hash it all out.
What's your calendar look like if we go earlier with the interviews? Yeah, we go earlier for the interviews.
Oh, that might work too.
Yeah.
I'll have kids with me, but
That's all right.
That's all right, they're
Might as well they start learning now. What's the date on this now?
It's a
April 4th,
Monday, the 4th.
April 4th, Monday.
5 is about as early as I can do it, and that's what I'm all leaving work early, so.
But I think if we target 1 at 5, 1 at 5:30, and if we have 3, 1 at 6.
And
then
we could slap those out, so we'll know we're gonna be done.
Sure, and
And then
then
that
be
would-
done with that at 6:30, maybe take a brief break.
Yeah, that's fine.
And have dinner.
Yeah, bring
I
it.
can- And then jump into the review, we'll do 6:30.
So 5 o'clock then?
6:30 to 7:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Does that work, Josh and Alex? Is that okay?
I can
Your guys'
That's what I'm
schedule?
doing.
Okay, it'll be a long night, but I just figured might as well just get it all done if we could. So, okay, we'll plan on that 5 PM. We'll do the interviews for the RFP and the master planning, then 6:30 we'll do closed session performance review for superintendent. Then our regular scheduled meeting is the following Monday at 6 o'clock, which will have the budget hearing, which we just approved before the meeting, and then we'll jump into our regular meeting after that.
It starts at 5 or 6.
The rate 6 o'clock is our April 11th.
No, but I mean on the, or it's at 5, right?
5. April 4th is at 5 PM.
Okay.
Other than that, is there anything else we have?
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right here.
Tyler? Jeff?
Sorry, I
No,
was,
you're good.
I was asking about who is
Yes,
on
let
the
me get this. I'm
negotiation.
gonna do that.
All right, meeting adjourned. It's Jeff and I.
Oh, okay.